Good evening, I'm Gisele Colbert, founder and principal scientist at Smart Sciences, Inc., an environmental consulting firm here in South Florida. Tonight we're putting on a show. We're going to be having a viewing of the Florida Bonneted bat. This is one of the rarest bats in all the world, and the majority of them, if not all of them, are located here in Miami-Dade County. And there's a roost here in Coral Gables, which is where we're shooting this film. We are going to teach people about the bat. We're going to let people hear the bat, and hopefully we'll be able to see the bat. And the reason that we're doing this is to hopefully to protect this bat species and allow its population to come back. It's become an issue that we have to deal with in development of South Florida, because we don't want to impact any of these bats' roosts. Similar to when we do development, we want to do it smart in the way that we want to try to keep our environment sustainable and keep our water quality good and keep our wetlands and wildlife. And we want to keep those things protected, and if we do impact them, we want to provide habitat for them somewhere else, which is where Smart Sciences comes in.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kisi Bohn. I'm a professor at FIU, and I work on bats, both social communication, and evolution and ecology. That they use echolocation, which is essentially like sonar that we use for submarines and etc. So one thing that's amazing is we have a bat here called the Florida Bonneted bat, and it's one of the rarest mammals in the world, and it actually is right here at the Granada Golf Course. How do I know? Well, this bat is really different than just about anything else in that its echolocation, that sonar, is actually audible. So these bats are very difficult to see, but you can hear them all the time. They make a sound, they pick up the echo off of an object, and they use that echo to actually be able to see in complete darkness. So in itself, the processing is absolutely amazing. And in fact, we can't even create an echolocation or a sonar system that rivals what bats can do. But bats in general often aren't really well known, or as well known as you would think. For example, they're a quarter of all mammals are bats, right? We think that they're these really obscure, rare animals, but actually a quarter of all mammals. So right behind rodents, you have bats, and then following them would be primates. We also have bats on every single continent except for Antarctica. That is, they are everywhere. We just don't see them, and normally we don't hear them. So I can guarantee that you've had probably thousands of bats fly over your head during your lifetime, and you would never be the wiser. Why? Because bats actually don't pay much attention to humans. Unless we're, cutting down the tree they're living in, they could fly around us, and they don't really think of us as any sort of threat. Bats also do a lot of service to humans, and they do just about anything, so as far as ecology goes. So here, for example, all of our bats are insectivores, and they do us a great service in eating those pesky insects, mosquitoes, beetles, moths, crop pests. That is the diet of all the bats here. And one of the species, for example, here is known to eat up to 500 mosquitoes in an hour. You multiply that by thousands of bats, and you have quite a service. Another bat, Endangered brasiliensis, the Brazilian free-tailed bat, is known specifically for consuming crop pests. They haven't done analyses here in Florida, but in Texas, they are believed to provide millions and millions of dollars in services every year by simply eating the pests that basically would feed on those crops. Now, although here we have all insectivores, there are bats also that are nectarivores. They're basically hummingbirds, so they're going to be flower pollinators. They're also frugivorous bats that disperse seeds, and in fact, they're believed to be one of the major dispersers in tropical rainforests once it's been logged. Why? Because they fly at night, and part of the reason they fly at night is so that they don't have any predators. So I did bring some information. We have 6 to 7 species here in Miami-Dade County. But I'm most interested in the Florida Bonneted bat. Well, why? Well, mostly is because we just didn't know absolutely anything about it. And it's kind of amazing for you, as well as me, that it's a bat that you can hear. So for me, it's kind of a dream come true as well. I can use my complicated equipment to record ultrasound and then make it so that I can see it or convert the signal. But I've never actually been able to hear a bat fly and echolocate with my own ears until I came here. And so what you'll probably find out tonight is that you have heard this bat all the time and thought it was an insect. You can think of this bat as kind of being on an island because it can't get south, really, because of the ocean, and it can't go north. It can't handle any cold weather. So it's basically, it's got a very limited range. It's basically on an island. It's one of the larger bats, which means it's going to have a different niche, an ecological niche, than your little bats that you often see eating mosquitoes and some of your smaller insects. Like these guys probably are eating beetles and moths. Beyond that, though, we do not know enough. Actually, what we've kind of learned here, to be honest, we found the first roost around here. We did the first project on seeing what happens during the winter, whether or not they emerge, what they do. I was able to collect guano that I sent to a colleague in the UK who does DNA barcoding to figure out what their diet is. I've been doing their annual activity here at the golf course. I have actually an automated bat recorder that's in that tree back there, recording data every single night. So we're looking at their seasonal activity. And then finally, we're also recording, I've been kind of the first to pick up their feeding buzzes. And a feeding buzz is when the bats are getting really close to an insect and about to eat, they change their sonar signal, because as you get closer, you need shorter and shorter signals because it has to go back, go to the insect and come back. As you get closer, that signal has to get shorter. So otherwise, you're going to overlap your outgoing signal with your incoming signal. So what it'll sound like, and we hopefully will hear some tonight, as it sounds like a zzz. That's why we call them buzzes, because that's what they sound like to our ears. And no one had actually even recorded a feeding buzz on these guys. So we also have a bunch of acoustic information. We also I'm also recording lots and lots of social calls. This bat is so easy to detect. You can detect it at a very great distance. Whereas most of the other bats that have been listed before, once the signal becomes ultrasonic, the signal doesn't travel very far. Whereas these bats produce very loud calls. They're long echolocation calls and they're low frequency. That combination means that you can pick these guys up from a very, very great distance.
About how far?
I have to remember my estimate. I think I had 4,500 feet or something.
So how could you narrow it down at that point?
That's an estimate based on the frequency. That's based on the frequency of the sound, temperature, humidity. It's based on pure sound physics.
Okay.
Show some what the sounds are like. I don't know how well you can see it, but for example, I'm out here talking, right? So when I talk, most of the energy is really down low, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and add the bats now. Put it down a little bit so you can.
Makes it easy to see though.
Yeah. Well, I've got some insect noise too.
I don't know how they look like when they fly, but I've been seeing the trees flying in between those trees.
So that might, I think I just heard one over here. Oh, in fact, they are out.
Oh,
Can you hear it?
heard them.
Yeah.
So if we want to walk around a little bit. Okay, we need to bring this up to 44.
Oh.
You bring this down to 512, this down to 1, and then that's them. See if you can turn it upside down. Low, like this about here. So when I talk, notice it fills up. This is me talking, right? And we go all over the place. Now if I'm quiet, that's all the bat. And that was a feeding buzz. Let's see if we can catch him in sight. So They are critically endangered, and in fact, they believe that there's less than 300 left. So that puts them up there at the very top of the list.